Whether they've produced a burger-based attack ad or a pizza-themed parody song, these politicians can't get enough of fast food's most popular chains. If you weren't around during Bill Clinton's first term in office, you may not remember our 42nd president's widely discussed love of all things junk food during those days, including a penchant for fast food. Luckily for anyone who missed the halcyon days of the early 1990s, when Clinton was merely a hip saxophone-playing former Arkansas governor who didn't inhale, you can reminisce about his McDonald's obsession with an all-time classic Saturday Night Live sketch starring the late Phil Hartman as Clinton.
Well, she certainly is beautiful enough to be a princess. Say, you gonna finish these fries?
Of course, there's no evidence that the former U.S. president was known to stop at Mickey D's and pilfer parts of customers' meals during runs. But the famously genial politician was never shy about mingling with the common folk during his political career, and his love for fast food was so well known that the SNL sketch's premise was inherently funny. Interestingly, it wasn't just fast food that Clinton was obsessed with before and during his time in the White House, as his wife Hillary told the New York Times in 1992. The good news is, my husband loves to eat and enjoys it. The bad news is, he loves to eat, even when things are not always right for him. It's unlikely that former President Clinton still consumes as much fast food as he did on the 1992 campaign trail, but the memory of his junk food enthusiasm lives on. There have been far too many words written and spoken about Donald Trump since 2015, more than anyone could ever need. Yet no matter where you stand on the controversial politician, the former president, who announced a 2024 run for the White House in November 2022 after his loss in 2020, is unlikely to leave the news cycle as long as he draws breath. In other words, the fast food-loving Trump is destined to remain in the public eye until he's no longer able to enjoy a Big Mac and a Diet Coke. Now, like just about every aspect of the businessman-turned-politician's life, the core reasons for Trump's obsession with fast food have been analyzed nearly to death, including his literal fear of dying. According to the Michael Wolff book, Fire and Fury, Inside the Trump White House, Trump had a long-time fear of being poisoned. One reason why he liked to eat at McDonald's. Nobody knew he was coming and the food was safely pre-made. Trump's appreciation for fast food also extends to chains like Burger King, Pizza Hut, and KFC. But it seems that McDonald's will always be his true food love.
It's amazing. A big and tasty for just $1? How do you do it? What's your secret?
It doesn't take a forensic scientist to see that being president took a legitimate toll on Barack Obama's physical appearance. If we wanted to make a stale joke wholly lacking in originality, we could mention how 2 terms as President of the United States aged Obama 80 years rather than 8. But the unimaginable pressure of the presidency didn't just drive 44's rapid aging. In fact, we'd bet it helped drive his obsession with fast food burgers as well, one that included trips to Shake Shack and Five Guys while in office. Obama's love for a well-made cheeseburger is easy to understand. Virtually nothing can match the absolute paradise found when eating a juicy beef patty topped with gooey melted cheese. And it's no wonder the former president is a fan of Five Guys and Shake Shack, since neither fast food chain uses frozen beef. While neither of those fast food chains provided the infamous Dijon mustard burger that became a sort of scandal in Obama's first term, it's clear the semi-retired politician has a soft spot for a good, quick burger. Not that anyone can blame him. We don't necessarily care to delve into any sort of political debate here at MASH'd. We do food, not politics. But we have to admit, no matter how you feel about President Joe Biden's policies or performance in office, he's a fairly boring presence, particularly compared to most modern-day elected officials. Actually, the mundanity of Biden's entire political approach sort of explains his love for fast food ice cream joints like Dairy Queen and Baskin-Robbins.
My name is Joe Biden, and I love ice cream. You all think I'm kidding, I'm not.
Biden's never been shy about his unmatched passion for ice cream, of course. His borderline obsession has led to several public appearances at ice cream parlors over the years. During a 2019 visit to an Iowa Dairy Queen, Biden demonstrated the thickness of a pair of blizzards by turning them briefly upside down. Additionally, in October 2020, he posted a clip of himself double-fisting Dairy Queen desserts. further proving he's obsessed with the fast food establishment and its frozen treats. Not unlike New England residents' unabashed loyalty to Dunkin' or the West Coast's devotion to In-N-Out, folks from Texas love Whataburger.
You're gonna love Whataburger, Ben.
Oh, it's the best.
What makes it the best?
Wherever you are, there's a Whataburger.
For living proof, look no further than Democratic politician Beto O'Rourke. The born and bred Texan is so enamored with the burger chain that some believe he modeled his 2020 and 2022 campaign logos on Whataburger's spicy ketchup packets, according to Business Insider. Now, whether or not this was just some attempt to pander to Texas voters from O'Rourke is hard to say. But even if the logo design was an attempt to appeal to the masses, though an aesthetic choice, it hardly negates the reality that the man does, in fact, love Whataburger. Would O'Rourke have treated then-presidential candidate Joe Biden to a meal at a local Whataburger after a March 2020 rally if he didn't truly enjoy the restaurant? We doubt it. While his public fast food adoration doesn't appear to have won him any voters, at least he can always console himself with a classic Whataburger or two while ruminating on his previous election losses. The phrase hypocritical politician is sort of an oxymoron, isn't it? While an insincere politician is never surprising, it can occasionally make for an interesting news story. Take U.S. Senator Ted Cruz's alleged obsession with White Castle, for instance, a fast food chain that had no locations in his home state of Texas as of January 2020. Now, does White Castle actually hold a special place in Cruz's heart? Well, according to a 2018 campaign commercial directed by Richard Linklater, it does indeed. The advertisement for then-Senate candidate Beto O'Rourke featured footage of the senator seemingly dissing Whataburger in one clip and proclaiming his appreciation for White Castle in another.
I like their little burgers.
Obviously, we shouldn't be shocked that a man who went to school at Princeton and Harvard may hold a fondness for fast food found in the Northeast. While it may make Cruz a hypocrite for constantly deriding that region of the country while extolling the virtues of Texas, we're not here to judge. We're just sharing the interesting tidbit that Ted Cruz appears to love White Castle more than any of the countless fast food restaurants in Texas. After classified documents were found at the homes of Donald Trump, Mike Pence, and Joe Biden in January 2023, the circumstances were hard to fathom. After all, you'd expect a president or vice president to treat the nation's top secrets with immense caution, a viewpoint shared by U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham. But the South Carolina politician didn't simply chastise the guilty parties during a press conference on C-SPAN. Rather, he used the events to demonstrate his continued obsession with a certain poultry-based establishment.
You got Trump, you got Pence, you got Biden. The only thing I think you'll find at my house is a bunch of Chick-fil-A bags on the floor.
Now, let's set aside the somewhat disturbing notion that Graham may not throw away his trash after eating a meal, a horrifyingly disgusting thought. Frankly, the fact that the four-term senator used the line twice, once in the press conference and again during an appearance on Fox and Friends, shows how much he really wants the world to know how much he enjoys Chick-fil-A. Graham has displayed his genuine love for the fast food chain on several other occasions as well. He reiterated his unequivocal support for the restaurant in 2021, after some Notre Dame University students opposed the opening of a restaurant on campus due to its previous donations to anti-LGBTQ+ groups. Sometimes a company's product is so unequivocally fantastic that a person can't help but purchase it despite any moral or ethical misgivings, even if a fast food chain has publicly supported causes that, say, seek to deny an entire group of people their right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. If that restaurant's food is unrivaled, what's a little faith-based bigotry? At least that seems to be the relative thought process behind Pete Buttigieg declaring his admiration for Chick-fil-A's chicken in 2019. Now, if it seems shocking that the openly gay Buttigieg, the U.S. Secretary of Transportation as of 2023, would be a fan of a fast food chain known for its past anti-LGBTQ+ stance, that's because it is. But to be perfectly fair to Buttigieg, he didn't ignore that elephant in the room when mentioning his enjoyment of Chick-fil-A's food.
I do not approve of their politics, but I kind of approve of their chicken.
Still, it's not as though Chick-fil-A is the only game in town. We'd suggest Buttigieg consider Popeyes the next time he's hankering for a fried chicken sandwich. Being a member of Congress is a non-stop grind of grueling legislative work. Consequently, the rationale behind why many members of Congress seem to be obsessed with and often eat fast food while working is apparent. It offers a quick, convenient meal that requires little time or effort. Former U.S. Congressman Paul Ryan often fell into this category during his time as Speaker of the House. And when looking for a fast food meal, he wasn't shy about his love for, you guessed it, Chick-fil-A. In fact, his office spent a startling $2,500 at the restaurant in May and June of 2016 alone, according to Roll Call. Unsurprisingly, Ryan's hefty congressional Chick-fil-A bill, a tab we're sure was picked up by the U.S. taxpayers, wasn't the only time his obsession with the fast food chicken chain was shared publicly. In August 2012, while playing a word association game during an interview with CNN, Ryan responded to Chick-fil-A with, "Good chicken, free people exercising their free speech rights." It appears that Ryan's appreciation for Chick-fil-A isn't limited to the product itself. Would Ryan still love the chicken joint so vocally if it suddenly declared its support for LGBTQ+ equality? It's hard to say, but we have our theories. Herman Cain isn't the only U.S. politician with high-level fast food experience, but he's the only one who served as the CEO of Godfather's Pizza. He may also be the only one who loved his favorite fast food item so much that he created a song parody dedicated to it, as Cain did about pizza in 1991. Of course, while the late Cain could never match Weird Al Yankovic when it comes to food-based songwriting, his 1991 performance for the Omaha Press Club perfectly illustrated his crystal-clear obsession with fast food, or at least fast food pizza. While Cain's love of pizza is well documented, it wasn't his only professional experience with the fast food industry. He oversaw a number of Burger King restaurants in the Philadelphia area before moving to Godfather's. He may not have had the same passion for that job, as he never created a John Lennon-inspired ditty about burgers. No, Cain's obsession with eating fast food pizza seemed to supersede all others. After all, as he once sang, if one has to imagine only burgers in the world, he'd find that frightening and sad. The ubiquity of Dunkin' restaurants in Massachusetts is a bit of a running joke among residents. Of course, since there were 1,083 Dunkin' locations in the state as of April 2022, one for every 6,500 residents, it's easy to see how the donut and coffee chain is as unavoidable as it is beloved. Politicians are no different in their love of all things Dunkin', especially U.S. Congressman Jim McGovern from Massachusetts. He once made a pretty bold claim about the quality of the chain during a Rules Committee hearing.
And I want to thank the Rules staff for getting Dunkin' Donuts coffee from Massachusetts. It's the best coffee in the world.
Clearly, there's no better way to express one's devotion to a fast food restaurant than stating its product is literally unbeatable across the globe. McGovern doing so on the record only further illustrates his admiration for Dunks. Perhaps unsurprisingly, given its close connection with the state. McGovern isn't the only Massachusetts politician with a Dunkin' obsession. In fact, according to Sentinel and Enterprise, Massachusetts candidates spent $15,753.96 at Dunkin' in 2013, a whopping 10 times more than campaigns spent at any other restaurant that year. It seems the Massachusetts government really does run on Dunkin'.